The scale and violence of Hamas' surprise attack marked a new deadly chapter in the war between Hamas and Israel and in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict during Operation Al-Aqsa, which began on October 7. The Palestinian militant group Hamas infiltrated several hundred of its fighters into Israeli territory, killing and holding Israeli military fighters hostage. This video is made to analyze the hows and whys and to go back in time and give history a moment. Quick disclaimer, this video does not encourage hate or harassment. We will simply be discussing historic facts that you in today's generation had no control over. Before we proceed, let's talk about Hamas, a Palestinian militant group that rules the Gaza Strip. It is also called the Islamic Resistance Movement. The group is dedicated to destruct Israel and replace it with an Islamic state, and this war has been going on and off since 2007. The question is, how did it all start? Let's go back in time to when Israel was founded. In 1917, British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour penned a letter to Zionist Second Lord Lionel Walter Rothschild in which he expressed support for a Jewish homeland on Palestinian-controlled lands in the Middle East. This Balfour Declaration justified the brutal seizure of Palestinian lands for the post-World War II establishment of Israel. Baron Edmund de Rothschild built the first oil pipeline from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean to bring BP Iranian oil to Israel. He founded Israeli General Bank and Paz Oil and is considered the father of modern Israel. This latter was the planet's wealthiest man, worth trillions of dollars. The Rothschilds clan control Royal Dutch/Shell, BP, Anglo-American, BHP Billiton, Rio Tinto, Bank of America and scores of other global corporations and banks. They are the largest shareholders in the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve and most every private central bank in the world. They needed a footprint in the Middle East to protect their new oil concessions, which they procured through four horsemen fronts like the Iranian Consortium, Iraqi Petroleum Company and Saudi Aramco. Years later, the horrific Holocaust that ensued assured sympathy for the already planned state of Israel. Towards the end of World War II, the murderous Haganah and Stern gangs were deployed by the Rothschild bankers to terrorize Palestinians and get their land. Jews who escaped Hitler's gas chambers were those of means who bought into Zionism. For a fee of $1,000, which was a lot of money at that time, these right-wingers bought passage to Israel and escaped the fate of the poor Jews, Serbs, communists and gypsies. With that being said, the recent horrific events are nothing but the culmination of a decades-long clash in the disputed region of the Middle East, and the answers of who's right or wrong depend on whom you ask. Let's now return to the recent events, since neither the Palestinians nor the neighboring Arab countries accepted the founding of modern Israel. Clashes between Jewish armed groups, some of which the British regarded as terrorist organizations, and Palestinians have been escalating on and off, which led the Palestinian group Hamas to finally launch Operation Al-Aqsa flood inside Israel, killing dozens and taking hostages in shocking assaults. The attack was launched at dawn during the Jewish holiday of Simchat Torah, breaching security barriers. A ton of rockets were launched from Gaza and Israel is left surprised. Here's how the attack unfolded. At about 6:30 a.m. Hamas fired a huge barrage of rockets into southern Israel, with sirens heard as far away as Tel Aviv and Beersheba. Hamas said it launched 5,000 rockets in an initial barrage. Mohammed Deif, head of the Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas, said, "We announced the start of Operation Al-Aqsa flood, and we announced that the first strike, which targeted enemy positions, airports, and military fortifications, exceeded 5,000 missiles and shells." At 7:40 a.m. Palestinian fighters had crossed into Israel. Most of them entered through breaches in security barriers separating Gaza and Israel, but one of them was filmed flying over in a powered parachute. In addition to that, a motorboat carrying fighters was seen heading to Zikim, an Israeli coastal town with a military base. At 9:45 a.m., blasts were heard in Gaza, and at 10 a.m. Israel's military spokesperson said the Air Force was carrying out attacks in Gaza. Israel's military said that at 10 a.m. Palestinian fighters penetrated at least 3 military installations around the frontier, and Hamas videos showed fighters running towards a burning building near a high concrete wall with a watchtower, and fighters apparently overrunning part of an Israeli military facility and shooting from behind a wall. The casualties were severe from both ends. Israel reports on Monday said some 700 people were killed. Israel's Ministry of Health updated the number of Israelis wounded in the ongoing violence, saying 2,382 were treated in hospitals so far and Palestinian death toll passed 1,500. Civilians confronting the army during raids and uninvolved bystanders have been killed. Gaza's humanitarian crisis is worsening as Israel imposes starvation on civilians. The air attacks are still on as Hamas is holding Israeli captives and Israel is gearing up for the next step of its war with Hamas as more than 1 million people were warned to evacuate for their safety and relocate to the enclave south within the next 24 hours, but Hamas urged people to stay put and defy the Israeli military order to evacuate homes. Israel striked convoys fleeing Gaza, killing 70 people, mostly women and children, despite pretending to stand for peace, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to eradicate Hamas. The question is Hamas the only targeted enemy, or is Israel targeting civilians as well despite Blinken's warnings to avoid civilian casualties? Will the world let the death of a journalist and the injury of 6 of his colleagues after an Israeli shell landed in a gathering of international journalists covering clashes on the border in South Lebanon on Friday slide? Reuters confirmed that its videographer Issam Abdullah was killed. Meanwhile, the BBC said its journalists were assaulted and held at gunpoint after they were stopped by Israeli police in Tel Aviv. What do you guys think amid all of this? Which side are you on? Do you think that war can justify these assaults? Do you think that Israel's occupation to the land will come to an end? Feel free to comment down below and express your thoughts. Like for part 2, have a great day, stay safe and see you in the next one.